Welcome to you all. Pursuant to committee rules, all witnesses will be sworn in before they testify. So if you will please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. All right, thank you. Please be seated. Let the record reflect that the witness is answered in the affirmative. In order to allow time for discussion and, quite frankly, for a Q&A that you'll get quite a bit of, your entire written statement will be made part of the record, but we would ask that you would limit your oral testimony or opening remarks to 5 minutes. There's a clock in front of you to remind you of that. It'll turn yellow when you have 30 seconds left. If you'll please make sure that you press the button when you're speaking. And so what we will do is we can have your opening testimony a combined 10 minutes, so however you want to do that. And so Mr. Doyle, we'll come to you first, and then you can yield to Mr. Monahan.
I would like to yield to Mr. Moynihan to open, please.
Okay, so Mr. Moynihan, you are recognized for up to 10 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to thank you, Chairman Meadows, and other members of the committee for having us here today. My name is John Moynihan, and I'm one of 3 partners that engaged in this investigative effort involving a 501c3, and in particular, the Clinton Foundation, the subject of today's hearing. Please note that we do many investigations into 501c3s, and this is just one of many. When I'm finished, I'd like to introduce my 2 colleagues that are here today, Mr. Doyle, and if it's possible, Mr. Thomas Ragland from the Clark Hill Law Firm. Tom has been very active with us in our efforts. As we move through this, at the conclusion of Mr. Doyle's introduction, I would like to answer 2 questions for the committee. Who are we? And why did we do this? I think they'll give some good color and background as to what we're doing, how we do this for a living, what our motivations are, and why we're here. I'd like to give at this point some special thanks to 3 other individuals who worked on this matter. Mr. Robert Nieves, who's behind me, he was a senior SES executive in the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration, where I worked for many years with Mr. Nieves on money laundering and financial crimes. Mr. John Shuro from the law firm of Bowditch and Dewey. He's a master tax analyst, fiduciary, and trust advisor in the field of taxation and investments. And Mr. Thomas Scannell, an attorney at a law firm in Massachusetts, who was a litigator who challenged us the entire process, our evidence, and the way we went about this, to ensure the integrity of what we're going to talk about today. At this time, I'd like to yield to Mr. Doyle.
Congressman Meadows and members of the committee, thank you very much for the invitation to present and discuss the topic relating to the oversight of nonprofit organizations with a specific case study on the Clinton Foundation. My name is Larry Doyle, and for purposes of background, John Moynihan and I are the 2 proudest graduates of the College of the Holy Cross. The Jesuit-inspired pursuit of the truth, competitiveness, and playing by the rules have been our calling cards and our commitment throughout John's career in and around law enforcement and mine on Wall Street. For the last 10 years, I have spent countless hours involved in literary and investigative pursuits related to regulatory failure. The comparisons I see between the subprime mortgage market, lack of ratings and regulatory performance, and the Madoff scandal to today's topics are stark. On that note, I welcome providing the following context and perspective for today's hearing. There are currently approximately 1.75 million not-for-profit organizations in our nation today. 90% of these not-for-profits fall within the 501c subset, while close to 2/3 are 501c3 public charities. Recent data highlights that these not-for-profits annually generate approximately $1.74 trillion with a T dollars, a 250% increase over the last 20 years. equating it to approximately 9% of our nation's GDP. On a standalone basis, this segment of our economy would be the 10th largest economy in the world. All of which begs the question, who's minding the store, looking out for the donors, and upholding the rule of law? Let us do you want to introduce Tom?
Yeah, at this point, Mr. Chairman, I'd like Mr. Ragland to introduce himself.
Thomas Ragland from the Clark Hill firm.
At this point, I'd like to answer two questions. Who are we? We are apolitical. We have no party affiliation to this whatsoever. No one has financed us. I don't know Chairman Meadows. I just met him today. I don't know any of you people, okay? I'm happy to meet you, but we have no relationship to any of you, okay? We are forensic investigators that approached this effort in a nonpartisan, professional, objective, and independent way. We have never been partisan. We come from law enforcement on Wall Street, where each of us has dedicated our entire lives and careers to the rule of law, doing the right thing, pursuing facts. We follow facts. That's all. None of this is our opinion. I emphasize, none of this is our opinion. These are not our facts. They are not your facts. They are the facts of the Clinton Foundation. Why did we do this? This is our profession. People will ask us, are you doing this for money? The answer is yes. This is how we make a living. We do cases. It's that simple. We are forensic investigators, former U.S. law enforcement and private practice, making our living conducting these cases. We did not choose this topic because of who the individuals are or were. In fact, we applaud the efforts of the philanthropic nature of the Clinton Foundation on some of the efforts that they have done. That's not in dispute. We're not here to dispute that. Rather, we have backgrounds in 501c3 charities, including work for, both inside and outside of them. We know the risks and the frequent shortfalls. 501c3s have been found to be particularly vulnerable to abuse and a lack of oversight, especially on the global front. We share a deep and profound commitment to protecting taxpayer dollars. In that context, we saw the controversy surrounding this entity, as well as the significant amount of monies, including U.S. tax dollars, that were flowing through this foundation. We decided and financed out of our own pocket to examine this ourselves. We also firmly believe that no one is above the rule of law, regardless of party, and those who occupy senior positions in our government owe a special duty. It's important to stress that we have not made any conclusions, and to set the record straight, we do not have a lawsuit against anybody. We don't have a complaint against anybody. We have a submission of probable cause to the IRS. That said, we use the FOIA quite substantially and other tools at our disposal to gain quite a bit of public and non-public information. All of the information was obtained completely legally and through the various tools of investigation that we have. At this time, what we would like to do in an expeditious fashion is to state in bullet form the process we went through and to state our findings that are in our submission to the IRS. It is a complex issue. There's a significant amount of information, but let it be said, our claim is a tax claim. It's a claim of probable cause indicating that the foundation operated outside the bounds of its approval that came from the IRS. That's our claim. Yeah.
You have 2 minutes.
Yep.
If we could read our investigative process to you kind of in quick fashion, here's what we did. We went to the 990s. We're financial investigators. We started with the returns that the foundation filed, not that we filed, not that you filed, that they filed. These were their revenue sources and their expenses. We attempted to reconcile all of those donations with expenses. The basis of our claim is we were unable to do that. Larry, go ahead.
On that note, we followed the money, So we made extensive spreadsheets of their revenues and expenses. We analyzed their income statements, and we did a macro review of all their donors, it's a very barbelled sort of foundation. Less than 0.1% of the donors gave 80% of the money. So we followed the money.
We further went and looked at consent decrees that were issued against the foundation by various states. We reviewed the responses from all the states in which they operated to specific questions about violations, consent decrees, or penalties that they may have paid to those states. We did an analysis of that. The results are quite shocking.
In addition to that, we sourced contracts, MOUs, and interaction with foreign governments, including email exchanges between senior foundation executives and government officials.